Okay, why don't we just turn to the page 7 first, I guess. On the Chinese, 第八页 in Chinese, 中文. Now, let's just read a little bit more further about what is meant by touching or contact, the third stage of the paying attention of the breath meditation. Okay. Let's read at the last paragraph. Suppose there were a tree trunk placed on a level piece of ground, and a man cut it with a saw. The man's mindfulness is established by the saw's teeth where they touch the tree trunk, without his giving attention to the saw's teeth as they approach and recede, though they are not unknown to him as they do so, and he manifests effort, carries out the task, and achieves an effect. Okay. In other words, you have to take your breath as if like when there's an in-breath and out-breath, almost like a saw. But when the in-breath and the out-breath have the contact or touching, when you feel there's a touching point there, so as if like the saw, the teeth of the saw, so making a contact on the log, right? So when you're sawing the log, you don't look at the saw, but you only just focus on the contact point. So, but you still know, or not that you unknown that there's a recede and progress of your saw, but you know it's moving, the saw, but your only focus is on the point. So that's, but usually, in Buddhism, of course, and they also must say in that, so that's how he manifests effort, carries out a task, and achieve an effect. If you read on the Chinese, 第八页, right, 第二行, so that's my translation. But when you see there's a bracket, it's all my translation. When you see there's no bracket, that is the other translation. 简单讲就是，如果你看到有挂符的那个是我自己在翻译的，因为我觉得可能之前的翻译不是那么清楚，我说从巴利文直接把它翻译过来。So if you have those who are read Chinese， 你只是看中文的话，那你就自己看一看。简单讲就是他的念升起在句词与木同的触点上，不做以来去的句子，又不是不清楚，听得懂吗？好。所以他巴利文是说 avidita， 就是说你还是知道有来来去去，但是你的专注力不是主要是那个出席，而是在触点上面。但并不是说你不要刻意去注意你的出席入席，但是并不是你不清楚你的出席入席，这个意思。OK， 就像一个句，因为你们这里谁有举过东西？you know when I was a kid, I saw a thing before I knew what does it mean. So in other words, if you are going to, you want to saw a log, you definitely don't look at the saw. You don't do that. Then the saw is moving, like shaking, right? So usually the saw is very thin, right? So when you want to saw a log, you have to just only see the point, like that. So, but not that you don't know there's more, like a breath, but you don't look at the saw. And look at the air, then you cannot saw the thing well. Okay. So when you do the touching point, it's as if like so. Actually, this is a really nice, I would say, the simile. So and then you just have to focus your touching point. Not that you don't know your in breath and out breath. Okay. Now the next paragraph is let me see. Yeah, I guess you can move to the page 8. Yeah. In Chinese, 在中文就是还是第八页，是差不多中文的倒数第三行。如是此等三法，非一心所缘，不是不知此等三法。So in the English you say so. These three things are not the object of single consciousness, and they are nevertheless not unknown, and the mind does not become distracted, and he manifests effort, carries out the task and achieve an effect. Okay. Let me see. Evan me tayo dhamma ekacita sarama. Okay. Nachimin tayo dhamma vidita honti nachachita vikepa kachati pachana paniya payogan jasada. Okay, visasaki. So in other words, so you know when we say the three samfa, the in English translation is the three things. The three things means the in breath as one thing, out breath as other thing, touching point as the thing. That means samfa, mean refer to touching point, in breath and out breath. The three things. So you want to say these three things, not that you don't unknown, but when you say these three things are not the object of the single consciousness. In other words, mean your consciousness actually in Buddhism believe that your consciousness can only have one object, the very moment when you observe things. But that you cannot say they are not the object of a consciousness, but basically mean you might be sometimes knowing there's in-breath, mean your consciousness in the in-breath. When you notice the out-breath, mean your consciousness is in out-breath. When you notice the touching point, mean your consciousness in the touching point. However, but even though you might be only more focused on your touching point, but that doesn't mean that, basically want to say, that means it's because even though your consciousness can have any one object, but you still can aware the other as well. This is what they just want to say. Kind of like my focus is on the log, but I still can aware my soul is moving. Okay. So because in Buddhism we have one of very famous verse. That's the below verse. The below verse say that from Dhammadipa, actually from many places, but Dhammadipa is the most popular of the Buddhist text. Actually, for English speaker, the first Buddhist text being translated into English, it was a Dhammadipa, because Dhammadipa are the main like verses about the teaching, the very important teaching, like concept of Buddhism. Okay, teaching concept of the concept of Buddhism. So the Dhammadipa, if you look at the verse, is 173, but this also been quoted by many places in Buddhism. Whose mindfulness of breathing in and out is perfecting, well developed, and gradually brought to growth. According to the Buddha taught, Theosis illuminate the world just like the full moon free from cloud. Okay, but of course when you read English, it doesn't sound like a poem. But when you read the Pali, Anapanasati yassa paripunnam subhavita Anupupang parichitta yatha buddhena desita. Actually, they do have the rhythm, you know. La 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 la. So and then la 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 la. That's the rhythm they have. Okay. Anyway, those are you know, in Indian culture, when you want to remember the thing, you definitely need to compose nicely so that you can keep it in the mind, and also it's a kind of beauty thing in the too. Well. Basically, I wanted to say, if somebody who have this achievement, such a thing, Anapanasati yassa paripurna supa, okay, to achieve the thing, so because of practicing the Anapanasati, so it's just like the moon will appear, so that will be, you know, at night, in the old day, you don't have this night life, you know, when the moon is not appear, it's completely dark at night. When at night, when the moon appears, you do see the very beautiful light there, and then you at least, not very clear, not 100% clear, but at least you could see there was, you know, something, you know, or at least you can walk on the road without fear that you might be, you know, tumble on something. Now, why we want to mention this? Because we need to go on the next step called establishing, and then we need to talk about something about the light. Okay, so. Now, we come to the fourth stage called the fixing. Now, first thing is about when you come to the fixing, that means in Chinese on page 9. You look at the bracket, that's my translation. But I forgot to delete something. I think sometimes some people put the bracket in 中文 in Chinese， 就是中文这边不是有一个方形，那个都是你要加进去。其实我后来觉得我应该删掉它，其实也不一定对的啊，因为翻译的人之前等一下我再讲。比如说你看，他应之，接着他不仅不以来去为目的，以此进行作于业处时，有的人不久便生起相，即所谓安止的，其一由组成诸产之成为成就。安住好，为什么我说不应该讲四相呢？因为这句话不对的。好，反正这个是将来发学佛法久的人比较知道，所以这个不一定是说不久便起四相，有的人不一定要起四相的，你知道我意思吗？但不管怎么样了，所以它原文是不久便生起相，其实这样的话来解释更通一点。那没关系，我只是说也不是很大的问题了，就是说。有时候他们加的也有时候很好，有时候不一定很好，就是好。但不管这个是因为我再重新翻了，只是我那时候没有注意到这些，我跟着他一样翻回那个挂弧是代表巴利文原来没有的啊，巴利语没有的。I just want to say in English now, it's what is meant by fixing. Here, a practitioner is precisely not giving attention to the breath as yet to come or already gone. That means you are not going to pay too much attention on the in-breath and out-breath. You could say that way, because you have to give more attention while you come to the fixing point. You are on the touching point. Remember, in the touching, when you want to move to the fixing, you somehow must understand. So your awareness is on the touching. But not that you don't know you're breathing, okay? Somehow like that. So here, repeat again. Say, precisely not giving attention to the breath as yet to come or already gone. Let me just look at the term. What is the original term that mean giving attention? Amanisikara matena bayo very topang. Okay. Okay, mana it's using the manasikaroto. It means you direct your mind to or focus on what. 就是我们坐意，一般玄奘法师比较喜欢翻译这个字叫坐意，就是你应该让你的意识应该往哪里去注意，好，叫坐意，好。意思说不要，就是你虽然你不是特意的去注意你的这个来跟去，好，就是啊，那么。Anyway, when someone gives his attention to the meditation subject, sometimes it is not long before the sign. Here, when you say giving attention to the meditation subject, is like you know the touching point. Your mind is mostly on the touching point. Not that you don't know your in-breath and out-breath. Get it now? When you are doing that way, sometimes it is not long before the sight arises in him. The limitta will arise in him. And then the fixing. In other words, absorption and adorn with the rest of the jhana factors is achieved. So that's why, basically, I mean, if you are doing that part when you come to the fixing point very well, and then the limitta will appear. Now, I'm going to describe what is the limitta later. Just know something will appear, okay? But then he also mentioned another word which is a little difficult for a lot of people at first. Absorption adorned with the rest of jhana factors is achieved. In other words, here, he say either the limitta appear, either the limitta is there, and then you are in the jhana. Okay, that's the reason why some people, if they have somehow they have a good condition that moment, when they just observing the in breath and out breath, somehow they experience a jhana also. Okay, they could experience a jhana. So. When in those days, the old master, when they want to write this kind of thing, they had to be very careful. Then the people can challenge. But sometimes I don't have jhana. Yes, because you could have the sign appear. But some people could say, no, but sometimes I'm actually in the jhana. Yes, because you also can have the jhana when you're really focused. Okay. In order to understanding, let me just see. Why don't we just read that first, and then we need to to have more elaborate what happened, because this is really important. The fixing point actually for lots of people, I think that's the most difficult part for lots of people to understand, or even people do not address mostly. Okay, for why other meditative subjects become clearer at each higher stage, this one does not. In fact, as he goes on developing it, it becomes more subtle for him at each higher stage, and it even comes to the point at which it is no longer manifest. However, when it becomes unmanifest in this way, the bhikkhu should not get up from his seat, shake out his leather mat, and go away. So he should go on sitting as he was, bring back the sign from the place. In other words, just want to say that, when you practice this meditation, like a lot of people might experience, now you hardly feel your breath. Remember, you maybe feel like, you're breathing, but you hardly feel the breath become really subtle, that you hardly feel a breath. But do not think that actually you are regress from your practices. Actually, you are improving your practices already. Your mindfulness, when it becomes stronger on the breath, your breath becomes much subtle. Okay. In other words, maybe at first you say, while I sit, I could feel my breath very easy. Now the breath is almost not there. You have to wait a little time, and then you just feel little like tiny bit of thing. That means you actually improve your meditation. Okay. And he mentioned that unlike the other method, because unlike the other method is on the contrary, any other method, if you practice, for example, you practice, I'll say the loving kindness meditation. So when you are doing the loving kindness, you want the people to be well and happy. Then you always, when it becomes strong, the feelings become stronger. Okay. But this breath is different. When you practice the meditation of breath, when it becomes stronger, the breath becomes kind of like more subtle. Very, very subtle. Okay. Somehow, in other words, I did see people before when I told them when you meditate, you have to really don't control your breath. But some people, they don't listen. Why? Why they don't listen? Because when you sit, they say, I couldn't feel my breath. So that's what they do. Now I feel it. Very nice. But no, then you cannot improve your meditation. You actually have to really, you don't feel it when I say don't feel, at first you do feel a breath, it's because it's rougher. But now it's very subtle. So you have to just, maybe you don't have a breath, somehow like you don't feel the breath. You just sit. Maybe you count a breath if you like to, or just wait. Then you feel very light breath going on. Okay. So don't control your breath. Okay. Also, now let me just say what that. Okay, there's a suggestion I don't have to read now. The suggestion on page 9. When really everyone is different, but if you come to a point that when you meditate for a long time, the breath starts almost like you don't feel the breath. So you do not panic, of course. Here you don't say, okay, now my meditation is not good. So, in tradition we have our sitting cloth. Sometimes they make of leather, or sometimes they make of just a cloth. So that's why I say that you don't just, okay, now my meditation may be not good. I need to take a rest now, so you just stand up. No, actually, if you feel the breath become really subtle and you don't feel it, kind of like, the best advice is you have to insist on sitting. Still sit there, because it's a good time actually. And even though you sit and then the breath still do not appear, then you must think, it's impossible. I must breathing, otherwise I will be lack of oxygen and die, right? And I'm still alive. It's impossible that I don't have breath. And of course, there's many Buddhist theory there. I'm not in the 4th jhana. I'm not in the jhana of complete cease of the feelings and senses. And there's a very, very higher jhana. I'm not in that. I'm not even in my mother womb, because it's believed that when you're in the mother womb, the first week you don't have breath. But after first week, I think, then you start to have little breath, and then only after second week you start to breathing. The little baby, when they start in the mother womb, the first week and second week, there's no breath there, because of mother. Anyway, I don't want to talk that too much. That is something else. And something like that. But then when you have contemplate, and then you will start to feel slight breath coming back. In other words, just say you think something else, you are not dying, then the breath will come back to you, even in a very subtle way. Okay. All right. But here, of course, the description they give on the page 9, second page. I think if you read the Chinese, that will be. The Chinese will be 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph. 对于座以业即欲驾极进而为系，故以此必须有强念以强会。So in other words, I mean at the time you definitely need to be. I mean, pretty simple. Just let me read it. Sorry, read it first. Say just as when doing needlework on a piece of fine cloth, a fine needle is needed, and a still finer instrument for boring the needle's eyes. So too, when developing this meditation subject, when resembles fine cloth, both the mindfulness, which is the counterpart of the needle, and the understanding associated with it, which is a counterpart of the instrument for boring the needle eye, needs to be strong. So you need two things that are very strong. One's the mindfulness, but that you could say that means a needle because very tiny, right? Because you have a very good claw, you need a very tiny, not the rough one. If you do the rough one, make a hole, the claw, right? You need a very tiny needle. You usually need a tiny needle, you have a tiny hole, tiny, what do you call it, that one? Eye, your tiny eye, you know. And when you have a tiny eye, what you need a very small string, and then to put it on that. You know the needle, right? I'm sure everybody knows. No, maybe not. I don't. So basically, I mean, you need to really subtle, okay, color line, you know, because the needle is tiny and the eye is small, and then if you want to put a thread on the eyes, you know, that really need a very gentle, like that. Okay. So it said a bhikkhu, I mean among a bhikshu parties, bhikkhu must have the necessary mindfulness and understanding and must look for in and out breath nowhere else than the place normally touched by them. Okay, get it now? Don't look any other place, but only the in breath and out breath where the touching point is. So that's called nowhere else than the place normally touched by them. Okay. So when he does so, the sign soon appear, nimitta appear to him, but it is not the same for all. In fact, this resemble and okay. In other words, when you say, when you do that, everyone may be different. Even though their mind is so subtle now, they become much more aware. Awareness is very, you could say, very careful. And then the wisdom means you know what you should do is very subtle. And then the sign will appear. Everyone is different, but here, of course, according they say some story, I would say the difference is some people might see light coming this part, some people may see and different type of color, some people may see there's a little dot right in front, some people might start to see star, some people might be see like for instance, like, you know, because you're looking at for instance, then usually it's easy you see just like a for instance, like this way. Some people might be just feel like, because that's what they like, and they feel like, oh, with the light. This is what we call the sight will come, the nimitta will come. Everyone is different, but I mean, actually you can explain why there is. Okay. Generally, if you like the blue color, then blue color will appear. If somehow your mind is so focused in one point, one dot, the white dot will be there. And if you say that somehow because you saw the foreign lights, even though you unconsciously you don't know you had grasping the foreign lights already, and that's why the foreign lights like a tube will be there. Somehow people thinking that there will be bright light and the bright light will be there. So, and this is the light which comes along. Okay. I'm going to talk about the light a little bit more, and then I will stop here and you practice and we will have Q&A. Okay. Let me see where I should go. All right, then we need to go to talk about the light, because I don't want you to go to the wrong light. And then the whole meditation is always telling me light, light, light. I would be bored to die. Okay. Remember the first day I talk about a subject, you need to learn how they are. Don't ask the question again, the same question, again and again. Okay. Right, let's, if it's Chinese, actually it's not Chinese, the additional handout you have, another paper, right. Now let's just say, look at page 3, then there's a, you could see there's a chapter 4, 126. Page 3, anyone can locate the place? Right. Now, I do put a Chinese word here, 四取向升起, but let's just read the English, okay? After learning sight to have been produced, he should no longer sit in that place. He should return to the honor quarters and go on developing it sitting there. But in order to avoid the delay of foot washing, a pair of single-sole sandals and walking stick are desirable. Then if the new concentration vanishes through some unsuitable encounter, he can put his sandal on, take his walking stick, and go back to the place to apprehend the sight there. Anyway, suffice that, I mean this hard, but generally it means that do remember, only when your sight is really stable, then you can leave. Okay, that's what I mean. Okay, I know it's a long passage about, you know, there's something to do with in the old day, the monk have to go to a place to do meditation, and then they have to try to get the sight. When they get the sight, they don't leave it there. But some people thought, okay, that's enough to go. No, that you need to really have the sight, and then now you can go back home and continue. Okay, something like that. Now let's just talk about the sight. What are they? Okay, on the page 4, the counterpart sight. Okay. Let me see whether I did put anything. I didn't. Okay. Why don't I just say this first? Usually we have two kinds of sign, okay? But sometimes different traditions have a different way to describe about that. I'm following the path of purification. They will only just describe the sign have two parts. One is called, in English called counterpart. One is called what? Grasping sight. One is called grasping sight. One is called counterpart sight. Okay, just remember. What does mean by grasping sight? It's just what I mentioned before. Like when you are actually doing quite good, some people see different color right in front. Some people even see might be something else. I don't mean they all are sight, okay? I'm not here to say everything is 100% because some people actually they might in a jhana. Remember I said that already, right? Then you don't call that as a sight, it's a different thing. It's very hard to talk there. Just remember, I don't mean 100%. Before the pastor said that either the sight arise or either you have the jhana factors, remember? So either you are in jhana, either the sight. But let us to talk about the sight first. The sight refer to, even though you are meditating on the in-breath and out-breath of the, of the thought here, okay? You have to base on the in-breath and out-breath. But some people could have the different vision. They might see color, they might see, as I just mentioned, like star. Sometimes some people might feel like they're on a space, but there are many stars, like a stereo. You call stereo? What do you call? 流星叫什么? Shooting star, coming, almost like you're flying on the sky. Depends, everybody's different. Because especially if you look at a lot of Star Wars movie, and dun 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 dun. Don't be funny. I know. Okay, since that, let me tell you one joke. Because my nephew, my niece, they're just 11 and 12 years old. And those they're only 10, 11 years old. When I visited them one day in Malaysia, and they were playing there's a Million, you know Million? Running Million, the yellow color. Million, yeah. And then so because of that, I started to play the game also. And I was upset with the game also. The problem for people who do meditation, when you love something, you're upset with it. And then you just play the Million. And I thought, okay, if I can play very well Million, I can get along well with my nephew and niece. It's true. If you don't play game with them, there's no way to talk to you. They don't know who you are. Anyway, I played a Million. And what happened? So, and then after when I just started to play Million, maybe just a week or two, and then I started to go for then I went for anyway, I go to do meditation, like intensively. The first day, the first half day, I was playing million in my meditation. 3D. And especially when I'm a little drowsy, I really like playing. Huh? Yeah, then you really, all computer games just right in front of you. They're running. You know, the medium is like you're running, but there are obstacles there, and then you kind of like, all the million. So that's like a, like a shooting star. Anyway, so but what I want to say, okay, back to there. When you do this mindfulness of breathing and your thought, when you are aware that there's a touching point, some people might have different experience. Those are experience, you could call that as, anyway, the sign appear. But how do you define the sign? Many. Because it can be the sign of grasping sign, it can be the sign of the counterpart sign, okay? Now, but then also, we never have a really clear, actually, definition what does a grasping sign is. In other words, anything which is not counterpart sign is grasping sign, okay? This is one of the way understanding. Okay, that's why, in other words, if you practicing, you have this kind of experience, now you learn ignore it, okay? Learn to ignore it, and then just back to your touching point. And then don't forget, your touching point has to come back with your breath. Remember this. Because if you, again, even though you have this ability to, even you will see this, a lot of these different sides appear, if you just back to your thought, sometimes you are not necessarily back to meditate on the mindfulness of breathing. You change your method already. Why? Because you could just meditate a thought. That's another technique, okay? That's why you don't do that. Please, when you come back, even though you may not have thought, you definitely have to aware there's in-breath and out-breath, or at least you have to make sure your touching point is come from your breath, okay? All right. Now, usually if you do this way, and if the breath sign will appear, normally it's more like a white color or milky white color. Okay, that's a sign. But don't be too excited too. If you're excited, it will go. And then you'll find, why my meditation is so bad? Why go? No, that actually is difficult. I remember when I was young, I learned this. When it appeared, I was so excited, gone. Long, 2 hours, again appear. Excited and gone. Excited and gone. You suddenly get very upset, actually. So the best way is that don't get excited. Whatever, fine. Just back here, okay? Very, very important. Otherwise, after you maybe give up, okay, enough. Why just appear and go? Because your mind, you might be trying very hard and do very well, but when you are attached to the sign, then you cannot manage very well. Don't attach to it. So what you have to do is just know that every time when the breath disappear, you know it's good, okay? Just wait up to appear, and you know when the breath back find the touching point, even though it's very small or very light, that's fine. Just relax and sit. Now, what is the counterpart? So some people don't have that experience too, very quickly. Some people, they do have a lot of this kind of experience. Mostly if you have a lot of this, seeing this grasping sign experience because you're looking a lot in the front. So try not to, okay? I will ask you, try not to. So when you slowly do that, when the counterpart arises, some people might see there was like quickly like a cloud will gather together. And then if you look at it, it will be there. I mean, look at a long time, it will disappear again because you lost your mindfulness. What you have to do is that still back here, and then if you constantly back here, that what you might not know, you might know it, and then it will transform into like suddenly almost like you open the eye. No matter where you are, whether it's a dark place or bright place, kind of like your eyes open somehow that you feel like something like almost like paste into you, okay? That you feel there's a very gentle light around, almost like aura, okay, not aura, okay, almost like that. But don't think you're aura. That's, almost like you gentle light around, and then, but you see in the front, basically it's maybe dark. Not when I say dark, means not the complete not don't see. You see things like, so that's why almost like you are in a very clear. When you go to a very how to say the place that no delusion. Not delusion. What is it? Illusion? No. Illusion? Well, I want to say it's a very clear night, but you see a very clear night. Now, of course, at first you just see that, and then you still have to back here. It might take a little effort for you, but you still need to back here, okay? Because here is always the very important place for you, okay? So if you back here, even it might take a long time, difficult, because you feel so good, you don't want to back here, but you still learn to, don't worry, you never lost. That's always, you need to just back here, even though you don't let your craving mind go there, just back here. So every time you back here, it will disappear again, become that, back here, become that, back here, become that. Then you know, that is called the counterpart side. Okay. I want to say something before. Yeah, read at Sam, page 4. Okay, he say, the difference between the earliest learning side, here they say learning side is not grasping side, okay, just depends on how to translate. The difference between the earlier, we are in the second paragraph, the earlier learning side and the counterpart side is this. In the learning side, any fault in the kasina is apparent. Anyway, basically you could see something like a color and so forth. But the counterpart side appear as if breaking out from the learning side and 100 times, 1,000 times more purified, like a looking glass disc, draw from its case like a mother or pure dish, well washed like a moon dish coming out from behind a cloud, like a crane against a thunder cloud. So some people, when they have a learning side, anyway, you just feel like something very clear, something like, I don't know, you just almost like your eyes have been put like a kind of a contact lens, but the contact lens gives you like manifest to see the thing very clear. That's meant by the counter sign. Now, what they are, and he say, but it has neither color nor shape, okay? The counterpart side has no color nor shape. For if it had, 如果它有的话, for if it had, it would be cognizable by the eyes, gross susceptible of comprehension and stem with the three characteristics. If they have the shape and the color, in other words, you could do vipassana, because you could see their impermanence, their but because they don't, okay? So the counterpart side is no color and no shape. But so I can only translate this way. When you see the counterpart side, it's always membrane, like a semi-membrane to the membrane. When it's a semi-membrane, means your mind is not stable enough, but it's still there. But when it's really, when you are there, it's almost like there's a glass. You don't see it. But when you, I'm sure if you meditate for a long time, you see it's kind of like there's some glass like there. That's why you cannot say that is the side, right? That is a color, right? And you cannot say there's a shape. You don't have shape and a color. But, okay. That's called 视相 in Chinese. It's called, that actually really mean by the counterpart side. Okay. And anyway, he explained that if there's a side, then of course, then that is also because your eye can contact. This is about more like insight meditation. And then your eye can contact with it. When your eye can contact with it, definitely you can do vipassana. You can do insight meditation. You don't, because that is not the thing. Okay. So, and he say, but it is not like that. For it is born only if perception in one who has obtained concentration being a mere mode of appearance, a mere mode of appearance. So, in other words, why this counterpart side is there is because when you have the stage of meditation called absorption, then the counterpart side will appear. Okay. Now, for those who are interested in this in Chinese, for example, in Yogacara, we talk about the side because it's very important to understand what kind of side. 中文翻译叫相, 相. And then that meditation side for the Yogacara, I mean, you could meditate, let's say I visualize a person, and then the person appeared right in front. This is also called a sight, 就是一个像，对。And this kind of 像 in Pali or in Sanskrit, the same word they use, nimitta. But in Yogacara tradition, they don't have the term called Patipaga nimitta, mean the counterpart sign. They have the term called, anyway, the term is mean there's no way to differentiate what are they sign. 就是在瑜伽师地论是把这个叫成无分别影像。Okay? 要进禅定一定要有无分别影像，简单讲，因为你没有办法去分别它，就是说分别就是知道它什么颜色或什么形状，没有的，它叫无分别影像。So different tradition they might use a different term, but just want to say the same thing. Okay. All right. Let's read the last one, and then I can leave you guys to do your meditation, and we can have a Q&A time also. Let me see, where is it? But, yeah, I think I have done that. Okay. No, one other thing is that then there are two kinds of concentration. I think I would address that tomorrow, okay? After when you have the sign, you don't think, okay, I'm done. I'm sorry, but of course you can be done by that time because you have stabilized the sign. If you can stabilize the sign, that means your concentration are very good, quite good because you are stable. Actually, this is what Buddhism thinks is the basic of concentration. That means that's how the foundation of concentration you have fulfilling. After when you have the foundation of concentration, then you can go on the other concentration. Then I'm going to talk that tomorrow, okay? So otherwise you will not come here tomorrow also. Then, and well, I want to know, I will give you 15 minutes break, and then Sakaranda will just run the bell, and then you start to do your meditation. And then we have this Q&A time, right? And I think he will announce later who group is going what time. I mean, we only have today for Q&A, like for a little group, you know. And then you can ask any question. Please remember when you ask question first, make sure you know the method. If you don't know the method, that's the first thing. Make sure you know the method. While maybe you miss something, or maybe I sometimes forget to say something too, you can ask about that if you're not clear. And the second is then, unless you really have very specific experience, but you also can ask that. But don't expect me to listen to all your detail, then it will take very long time. Just, come in the point. Yes?
Turning point.
Huh?
Turning point.
什么 turning point?
我不明白。No. Turning point. What? When you say turning with breathing?
Did I say the turning point?
Yesterday. Touching point?
Touching point, you mean?
Touching point, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Touching point, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I mean if you have a question during the okay, you have a question with the method now?
Yes. The touching, when you say touching point, touching point is here. Where are you saying is the touching point?
Yeah, because you didn't come maybe early morning, right? So the touching point refer to, I mean, of course the touching point can be anywhere, but it's just only for the sake of practices. It's much easier if you just start to find the touching point from around your nose streak or below your nose, above your lips, this area. Because the breath, because you have to focus this area more often, right? So in case that the touching point, because the touching point has to be always come from your breath. The breath feel the touching point, right? And if the touching point left, and you still can just know in breath and out breath, then by in breath and out breath, you could, with the breath like a wind, you still could feel the touching point. But if you use other places, it takes longer time and it's difficult. You don't need to waste that kind of time, right? Okay.
Very quick.
Yes.
Continue on that point.
Yeah.
Can I just assume that the touching point is here?
At first, if you just start,
assume
no, I want to say
comes
yes.
from there.
I want to say yes and no, Because if this is your first time practice, you never practiced a breath before, but then you still have to follow this in-breath and out-breath, right? But if you have the touching point before, but it's just now the touching point is not manifest, in other words, it's not doesn't appear to you, then of course you still presume the touching point will be there. Then it helps you to be much, but don't forget, even though you assume the touching point will be there, but you still have to see the in-breath and out-breath, right? And observe the in-breath, and then you feel, yes. But as I say, actually when you are okay, you can shift any touching point where you want, but of course you are not advised to do so. Yeah, okay. All right, so okay, you have a 15-minute break and then back here to do meditation. And if you have a question, we are in the team, then you can ask on that question later. Before and also I can allow you to ask like some question also. All right, have a good practice. Don't think that because you are whole day a lot of work to do. No, it's very rare chance for you. Even though, you know, just like when you go to study whatever, a little push for yourself is always good, right? Okay, right, I will see you later. Thank you.